Thank you to First Call for having me here today to talk to everyone. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and about 4 hours before she was born, for no apparent reason, after a healthy pregnancy, she had a stroke in utero. And as a result of that, she has epilepsy, ADD, sight and hearing problems, anxiety, depression, behavior issues, fine and gross motor skill problems. So she has a lot of stuff going on and has her whole life. When she was born, as a single parent, I struggled on welfare to provide housing, to support her. You don't get any extra money from assistance, even if you have a very disabled child. And at that time, there was no disability income from the federal government. So even if you can't work because of your child's disability, you didn't get any help, and you don't today now. So while I have a lot to say about the lack of services in the medical, the lack of funding in the education system, and my fears are what's going to happen when she's an adult and the lack of services that she's going to have then, I'm going to focus right now on sort of one issue that I hope sort of addresses all these issues. And when she was born, until she entered kindergarten, she got a lot of services from the Infant Development Program and from BC Centre of Ability. She had speech therapy, she had physiotherapy, and she had occupational therapy, so that she could learn to talk and walk and hold a pencil. Every couple weeks, the therapist would come and they would work on these skills that she needed until she hit kindergarten. When a child enters kindergarten, the school is supposed to provide these services, right? So she's supposed to get all these services through the school and have all these therapies provided for her. But they're so underfunded at the school that there are so few therapists serving such a large area that she went 7 years without any therapy whatsoever in the school system. Finally, in grade 7, she saw an occupational therapist, but there was no work. And I couldn't work and go to school and raise my daughter, so I couldn't afford it. When I was working part-time, I made less money than I would have on welfare because of low wages, right? I still would rather have worked because assistance is such a demeaning process to have to go through. But so I couldn't afford to compensate for these services that she was lacking. So this is sort of how life is for poor parents and poor kids, is that you're just trying to cover the basics of life, and that is hard enough. And there's no, in the schools and that, there's no extra funding in the poor neighborhoods for technologies or programs to enrich. You're just meeting the basics, and oftentimes not even that. So after I graduated university with my degree, very hopeful that I would go on. My daughter's health got incredibly worse, and so that was not the result. So I have not been able to work since I graduated. I owe over $100,000 for my student loans that I can't conceive of how I'm going to pay, especially since I'm going to have to save up for my daughter for the rest of her life, because disability welfare is pretty low. I can't conceive of what kind of work she's going to be able to get, and she's still going to need these therapies. And the problem is that she's never going to make up for the time that she didn't have those therapies. And these kids that are growing up now that are lacking these services, that aren't getting all their needs met, they're never going to recuperate that. And so somewhere along the way, we're going to have to pay. Whether it's we pay now and we help people in a real way that affects change on their life and raises them up, or we pay later in punitive or rehabilitative or other processes, we're still going to have to pay. So in closing, I'd like to point out that if I put my daughter into foster care, strangers would have gotten paid up to $4,000 a month to take care of her. And I get $278 through the disability, and just recently $188 respite. If I'd been supported even to 3/4 of that amount during her whole life, school wouldn't have cost so much. I could have gotten her the therapies that she was lacking. I'd be in a better position to work right now. So I just wanted to close with that. Thank you for listening.